So today we're back in Job chapters 9 and 10. And one of the things we need to remember when we hear all of Job's questions and doubts and struggles is that Job's heart was really right with God. But his theology, his understanding of how God works in our lives, his understanding of why things happen in the world was pretty messed up. Remember, both Job and his friends had this mindset that we call retribution theology, which means basically that you get what you deserve now. The idea is that God makes sure that good people get good things in this life, and that bad people get bad things in this life. He rewards or punishes people in direct response to their actions. But even though Job knew he wasn't perfect, he knew that he was godly, and he knew that he hadn't done a bunch of wicked things that would lead to the kind of suffering and pain that he was going through. And so he had big questions about the justice of God. Chapter 9, he says, God repeatedly wounds me without cause. He says that God gives the whole world to the wicked, and then he mocks the innocent, those who are righteous, by causing them to suffer. And he says, but he's God. What am I going to do? It's not like I can stop him. And then in chapter 10, he really questions God. He says, why do you fight me like this? God, is it right for you to treat me this way? Verse 7, he says, you know I'm not guilty, yet you punish me anyways. He says, did you create me just to destroy me? You showed me your love, and now you've hidden your heart from me. What's the point of being righteous? You give me the reward that the wicked deserve. Just like people have believed for centuries in Africa, in traditional religion, Job believed that every event in this life has a direct spiritual cause, that right living leads to blessings, and wrong living leads to difficulty. And he's angry because God was not playing by Job's rules. He says in chapter 9, verse 33, if only there were a mediator between us. Well, Job had it wrong. God wasn't the problem. The problem was that Job didn't understand the rules that God plays by, the rules that God himself made. Job did get one thing at least partially right. He needed a mediator between him and God. But he didn't need a mediator to speak on his behalf to prove Job's innocence. Like everyone else who has ever walked on this earth, Job needed a mediator who would recognize Job's guilt and then take Job's guilt onto himself. He needed a perfect mediator who would offer his own innocence before God on Job's behalf, so that Job could then be declared truly innocent before God forever. Job didn't know it, but when he was asking all of these questions, he was really calling out for Jesus. Thousands of years later, God provided that mediator that Job wants so much when he himself took on human flesh, when he lived as the only truly righteous and only truly innocent man who has ever lived on this earth. Then he took all of the sin of humanity, every bit of it, onto himself. Isaiah 53 says, he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. Isaiah says all of us, just like sheep, have gone astray. We've all turned away from God and gone our own way. But God was going to send a mediator, Isaiah said, a mediator who would take all of our straying and all of our iniquity and all of our sin onto himself. And Paul says that mediator has a name. His name is Jesus. 2 Corinthians 5 verse 21 says, he who knew no sin at all became sin on our behalf so that we might become the righteousness of God through him and be truly innocent and blameless before him.